Welcome in. What is happening? SODFS. We are back on a Friday night. Appreciate all you guys joining us this evening. I am your host, Dan. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Brown NFL. And here with me tonight is special guest here tonight. We got Brother Matt in the house. Nate couldn't make it. He's having some technical difficulties up there in the great state of Michigan. But fear not, we have Brother Matt with us. He's with us every night, just typically behind the scenes as all the magic unfolds, but not tonight. He got called up. Not only is he producing the show and all the layover work, but he's going to be right in here, in-house, chatting it up with us tonight. Brother Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. Good to see you.
Hell yeah, man. I'm excited for this one. You guys can follow Brother Matt on Twitter at DY_nasty dude. And they're kicking it in the clubhouse with SOD. So welcome aboard, Matt. Welcome to the show. Did you have a good Thanksgiving, man?
I had an awesome Thanksgiving. Tons of food, tons of family. We probably had, 17, 18, 19 of us, something like that together. A couple turkeys. Just great day.
Man,
How
heck
about
yeah.
you?
I went over to my sister's house, had the whole family over there, and kids were just running around like crazy. I ate myself sick. Typically I eat lightly and then eat again frequently, but yesterday I was holding off, and then I ate myself into a food coma. I felt terrible the rest of the evening. I'm not gonna lie. I think I ate too many desserts. We made some badass desserts. Casey and I kind of went all in and made some really badass desserts, and I scrumped them down there at the end. So
Like
we
what?
had a good time.
What would you guys whip up?
We made some red velvet cupcakes, but they had Oreos in them and a Oreo
Oh,
cream icing. They were
I,
really good. The cake consistency of them was top notch. So
I,
I ate a bunch of those. I made a Reese's pie as well, and then like a cookie, M&M cookie cake type thing. I don't know. They were all damn good. I was already full before I started eating them, but I had to eat some of each one as I put my blood, sweat, and tears into them with my wife Casey, who did most of the work. But I was there, I was supportive. When she needed a bowl washed, I would wash the bowl because I knew she had to use it for the next one. We were a machine, a well-oiled machine, and that's how we've gotten through life thus far.
that's what I'm talking about.
But as far as the football goes, I mean, I watched a good bit throughout the day, when I wasn't traveling or eating, and watched a little while eating as well. But they were pretty good games. That Bills-Lions game, the Lions made it a lot more interesting than most of us thought it was going to be. So that was good. Cowboys didn't quite dominate as much as we were hoping they would. Giants made it interesting. It ended up being 28-20. The Cowboys. The real game, though, that ended up kind of surprising everybody, I think, was the Vikings-Patriots late night game.
Absolutely.
Justin Jefferson just continues to come out and be fucking amazing each and every week, man. I can't like that guy enough. And, he couldn't enjoy his turducken after the game because he had his grill in his mouth. And I'm sure he'll be just fine and eat plenty of turkey later that evening.
Hell yeah. Well, we had a little bit of a weird day at our Thanksgiving gathering. 2 o'clock hit there, and all of my sister's family like gathers around the TV and pretty much demand that we watch the Brazil World Cup game. So they had us outnumbered. I think it was just me and my father-in-law that were down with football. So we ended up watching. We ended up watching World Cup yesterday. It was a good time.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah,
Well, you ready to talk a little bit about Week 12 NFL main slate?
absolutely. First, we got to talk about the fact that Sons of Dynasty, we got officially partnered up now with the Fantasy Points Media Group. Make sure that you guys go check out all the great content that Fantasy Points Premium Access has to offer. And while you're at it, make sure that you use promo code SUNS22, and we can hook you up with 10% off your subscription.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't say enough good stuff about Fantasy Points. All their content, lots of it free for you guys to check out, but tons of great content year round. So go definitely check out Fantasy Points and use that promo code SUNS22 to get 10% off. Some of the games on this slate here, we've got Chargers and Cardinals at the 48 point total. Raiders and Seahawks 47.5. That one's going to be pretty popular. Texans and Dolphins is a game. Lots of quarterback changes, including there for the Texans. Then you got Packers, Eagles, Ravens, Jags, Bucks, and Browns. Those are going to be the highest over-under totals for this week's main slate, but we've got some players that are going to be out and some noteworthy ones that are already deemed out as of now. That's Joe Mixon, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Kadarius Toney, Daniel Bellinger, Russell Gage, Rondale Moore, PJ Walker's doubtful, and Leonard Fournette is also doubtful as of now. I'm sure we'll get more news as we get closer to Sunday.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney back with those hamstring issues again. We thought those were magically healed when he moved to KC, but I guess that wasn't the case.
Well, and they were already getting thin at wide receiver. I think Juju will be back, but this kind of just gives a little bit more of a bump to Watson and Sky Moore this week.
Yep, I'll love that. I want to talk that Sky Moore here in a little bit.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into some quarterbacks. We're already talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, so we can talk about Pat Mahomes. He's coming in at 8,200 this week, and he is now a top fantasy scorer in the league. He's racked up 280.4 Draftkings points over his 10 games thus far, and he scored more than 30 points in 4 straight. The Rams matchup isn't the best for quarterback scoring, has been low against them all year besides the one Josh Allen game they had in week 1. Andy Dalton has really been the only other QB to get 20 fantasy points against this defense, but they really haven't faced very many tough challenges thus far. I think Pat Mahomes is in a good spot here. Obviously, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire now on IR, Pacheco is going to continue to be that dude, but I think Pat Mahomes is the one who really has to be that dude. So I do like Pat Mahomes this week.
He's been sharp all season too. It doesn't seem like last year he kind of came and went a little bit. He's been on point this year.
Yeah, just the arm talent that you get to see out of that guy on a weekly basis, and the composure. You see a little bit of that in Joe Burrow, but Mahomes he's as cool as it gets.
That's a fact.
Another guy I'm interested in on this slate would be Justin Herbert there for the Chargers. He's coming in at 7K this week, and at elite points comes in at a score of 88.6. Herbert finally started to get some of his weapons back, and he immediately threw for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. In the beginning of a 5 amazing stretch here of matchups. This week he faces an Arizona defense that is playing off of a short week, and the Cards are allowing the 6th most fantasy points per game and the 6th most fantasy points per passing attempt to opposing quarterbacks. The Cardinals give up the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, and when you remove the games played by the Rams' backup quarterback this past week in John Wolford, this defense has given up 12 passing touchdowns over their last 4 games. So I think that Herbert's in a great smash spot here again this week against these Cardinals. This is a game that's going to be pretty popular, I believe.
Yep, like that a lot. What you think about my WVU boy Geno there up against the Raiders? They seem to be, I think, 3rd worst against the quarterback this year, and Geno's been 60% over expected fantasy points, so looks like he's in a pretty good matchup at 6,000.
Yeah, Geno's a great play this week on DK. He is coming in at a score of 97.69 there with the elite picks, and I believe is coming in as one of the top quarterback values on this slate over there at fantasypoints.com. So I like Geno this week. I think he's got a great matchup there against the Raiders, and he's got his 2 pass catchers that you just got to decide which one you're going to bring home.
Yep.
One more guy I'll talk about here is my guy smoking Joe Burrow. He's coming in at 6,700 this week. That's a value for me. We know Joe Mixon has been ruled out, and when Mixon's not in the fold, I think that just leads us to that passing game that we know is there for Joe Burrow. And yes, now whispers of Jamar Chase potentially back in the fold this week, I think just alludes to potentially higher upside for Joe Burrow in that passing attack. The Tennessee Titans have been stout against the run pretty much all season long. If they are susceptible anywhere on their defense, it is via the wide receiver. So expect Joe Burrow to have a great game this week. I like him. I'm going to be stacking up that game. Maybe Derrick Henry with some Joe Burrow and co bringbacks. Joe Burrow is scoring a 91.18 there at Elite Picks. So, he's a great quarterback play this week as well.
And possibly getting Chase back. That can't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm big time on Higgins this week. Either way, obviously, if Chase comes back, I don't think it's such a bad thing. It might even bring Higgins' ownership down a little bit, but I think Chase will get eased back into the mix, even if he does play this week. So I'm not going to be interested in him, but I still love Higgins, no matter the outcome.
Right.
All right, that's pretty much it for the quarterbacks. And you ready to move into the running back section there, Matt?
I am. Before we get going on that, let's take a second here to tell the folks about Canva. I guess hopefully you guys are appreciating all these sweet overlays that we try to produce for y'all each week. Just find that, and all of them are done on Canva. Really have found that the ease of use for Canva, different ideas that you have, especially if you're paying for the Canva Pro, the different elements that they have that you can bring to your design. It's really endless. If you're using other sites, you're going to have to pay for things like stock images and things like that. You don't have to pay for that on Canva when you have the Pro. Tons of stock images, tons of things there, and Canva's helping us out. We're trying to help Canva out. So if you get on our link and use it to sign up to Canva, then you're going to get a little bit of time with me, and I'll help explain to you how I do some of the things that I do, and I'll be available to answer any questions that you have when you're trying to work out some of your designs.
Yeah, Canva's been such a great tool for us at Sons of Dynasty and SODFS, instrumental in what we do on a weekly basis. And Brother Matt is the engineer behind that. So his work speaks for itself, but he's been great. I love Canva.
Yeah, man.
All right, let's talk about some running backs on this slate. One guy that we were going to talk about, it was Josh Jacobs. He's actually coming in with a questionable tag I saw that popped up today. So I'm going to temper my expectations for him a little bit, especially with that price tag at $7,700. But he's exceeded points expectations 70% of the time this season and has 5 games with at least 20 carries, with 2 of those in the most recent contests. In those 5 contests, he went over 20 DK fantasy points, and all 3 of those went over 30 in 3 of those. So he is in a good spot, but the questionable tag does give me a little bit of pause. A guy that's a little bit cheaper that I do like again this week is James Conner there for the Cardinals. He's coming in at 6,600 and has an elite pick score there of 92.56. Over the last 2 weeks, Conner has played on 86% of the team snaps. We know they released Eno Benjamin under whatever circumstances. I never really had any clarity on that situation, but Conner's 86% of team snaps are the most by any running back over that span, while handling 92% of the backfield expected fantasy points. So averaging 18 carries, 4 targets, and 18 expected fantasy points per game. So he gets a dream matchup against this Chargers defense that ranks 3rd worst in schedule-adjusted fantasy points per game allowed to the running back position, as well as the worst overall yards per carry allowed with 5.75. The Chargers are a true run funnel defense each and every year. This year has proved no difference. James Conner is going to continue to get all that work. They're going to lean on that game. Kyler Murray, yes, expected back this week, but still not 100%. James Conner is going to be looked to heavily again this week.
And where you guess the ownership's going to be for Conner?
I think he's going to be pretty high, just given that price tag and the usage he's seen. I'm guessing he'll be top 5 running backs, maybe somewhere around 18%. Last I looked, Fantasy Points hadn't updated the projections yet on those, so I can check elite picks.
So maybe more of a cash play.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a great cash play, and I'm not opposed to using him in tournaments as well.
Okay. I'm liking some Jeff Wilson this week. Mostert out. Texans, just bottom of the barrel run defense, and Wilson back in that 49ers offensive scheme. 5,900. What are you thinking about that price tag?
Yeah, no, Jeff Wilson is a smash play this week. His elite points or elite pick score is 99.03. So one of the highest there at the running back position. We know Raheem Mostert is now doubtful, if not extremely questionable, to even play this week. And I don't know that it matters. I mean, Jeff Wilson essentially came in and stole this guy's job. So
Right.
it's a great matchup. Houston. They don't look good on paper against the pass, but it's just because people can run all over them. So they're terrible against the run, and that's what teams do. So Jeff Wilson's in a smash spot here. We've been riding the Tua and Tyreek Hill train, and I don't know that I'm going to get away from it again this week. But in non-Tua or non-Tyreek builds, I do like Jeff Wilson a lot this week.
Yes, sir.
Probably one of my favorite running backs, though, to play this week. And now that we know that Lenny Fournette is doubtful for this matchup against the Cleveland Browns, Rachaad White coming in at 5,100 is probably one of the best running back values on this slate, especially if Leonard Fournette is to miss this game. The Buccaneers' last game being 2 weeks ago wasn't on the main slate, but many don't realize that White was the starting running back. After not seeing more than 6 carries in the game, he carried the ball 22 times for over 100 yards. Oddly enough, a player who's known to be excellent receiver didn't see a single target in that contest, but it was likely an anomaly. Even though Leonard Fournette is expected to potentially miss this game, White definitely becomes, if Fournette was going to play, I mean, there's a chance that White outsnaps him, especially if Fournette's not 100%, but I think White is really emerging here in this offense as Leonard Fournette is starting to, get a little banged up and not look too good. Maybe they're trying to, keep playoff Lenny a little bit more fresh. But Rachaad White is storming into this offense, and if Lenny's out of the equation this week, I'm going to be littered with Rachaad White here.
I need to see something out of him. He's getting the opportunities. Like you said last week, he got the 21 carries or something like that, but no targets. So he's been a SOD darling of ours. If you're down with our hype videos, you definitely saw a lot of Rachaad White. If you listen to Coach Craig talk, you've heard about Rachaad White. We've been all about him, and I own him in a lot of dynasty leagues. I've been trying to sell him in one of them. Me and you always trying to sell running backs. But I don't even think he's at four yards a carry right now, though. So I need to see that happen. With this opportunity. I want to see something big.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I think his opportunity is this week, and it's a great matchup there against Cleveland. So I like him just as much, though. Right there in that 5K range is Latavius Murray, though, the running back for the Broncos. He has established himself as the team's lead runner with a 17 for 49 and 1 rushing, and he added 4 for 23 receiving for a season high 17.2 fantasy points in their loss to the Raiders this past week. So, we know the Broncos released Melvin Gordon, showed him the door. By default, Latavius Murray is the premier running back there for the Broncos. Now, a team that hasn't looked great all season long, so don't get too excited. But just given the workload that we're expecting out of him, and he still looked good with his touches that he's received so far this year, coming in at 5K against Carolina, who's, yes, their defense has been playing well, keeping them in games. It's not a team that's going to jump out to a huge lead and get Latavius Murray phased out. He's going to be relevant all game long, and I think the volume is enough to get him there. And that at a 5,000 price tag, I'm going to have a decent amount of exposure. His elite pick score is 99.42, so that's top 5 there at the running back position. You guys have heard me talk about elite picks several times now throughout the episode, talking about these guys' scores. Well, I'm getting these scores from the Elite Picks app, and it is the newest daily fantasy lineup optimizer out there, something that I've been using the last couple weeks now, just trying to bring another edge here to my DFS, and it's been great. Just being able to lock in up my core pieces and then throw them in the optimizer and let it recycle through some other pieces. And sometimes I'll just sit there and recycle it until I see something that pops. It's just great for getting the juices flowing as far as maybe I've got my core 4 guys here, maybe my core 5. And, I kind of want to see what I can do with them. So I'll lock them in there, lock my core in there, and then sit there and optimize, maybe create 10 or 15 lineups off of that and just give them a go and see which ones I like, which ones fit. Maybe I steal one piece from one and go ahead and lock it in there and then rotate through the last ones. But it's been great. I really can't say enough good things about Elite Picks. You guys can check that out if you want to. Just write down in the description right now, there's a link where you can go check that out and get a week free of Elite Picks. That's NFL and NBA. I dabble a little bit in the NBA market as well. So if that's something you're interested in, it is definitely included in that trial period. So go check out Elite Picks. That's for iPhone users only at the Apple Store. So go check that out.
For sure. Love that.
All right. That's pretty much it for the running back positions. We can talk about some wide receivers now.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Tyreek Hill and that 8,800 price tag. How you feeling that for the best wide receiver in the league right now? I mean, he's going to put points up, but is that too much? Is that too much to spend?
No, I mean, I don't think so, man. You know me, I love wide receivers, and Tyreek Hill, he's been, as advertised this year. So he's got a perfect 100 score there at Elite Pick. So he's a great play this week, even at that price tag. I really do like Tyreek Hill. Like I said, I mentioned I like Jeff Wilson, but really the Dolphins are a great team to try to attack this week. I love Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's Waddle's also in play for me very much so this week. So figure out a way to build a stack with these Dolphins and don't be afraid to bring Tyreek Hill along. With the value that we have at running back this week, I mentioned those 2 guys right there at 5K range. Right, that allows you right there to get a Tyreek Hill. And there's 3, maybe 4 guys on this slate that have that slate breaking upside. Tyreek Hill is one of those guys each and every week. So whenever I can get value guys in at the running back position, I want my Justin Jeffersons, who's obviously just played yesterday and it's not going to be on the slate. Okay, well, give me my Tyreek Hill this week for sure.
There you go.
We talked Joe Burrow, so and I've already mentioned my guy T. Higgins. He's coming in at 6,900 this week against those Titans that I mentioned have been susceptible against the pass. They give up the second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers, but part of their issue is that they allow 14 receptions and 1.3 touchdowns per game to the wide receiver position. So they're giving up big chunk plays, not a lot of touchdowns, but I think T. Higgins can get right here. They've been fortunate to have played 6 games with very weak passing attacks. So if you look at the wide receivers that have burned them, it's really a short list of Stephon Diggs, and way back at the beginning of the season, Diami Brown went for over 100 yards against them. But Higgins went off versus Pittsburgh this past week, and he's in a good position to do so again this week. Jamar Chase, as we mentioned, is potentially going to be available. I don't think he's going to be up to full snaps, even if he does end up suiting up for this one. So T. Higgins is going to be the main beneficiary. Joe Mixon's out again. I'll bring that up. So the passing game is going to be funneled. I could definitely see Joe Burrow dropping back to pass, 40 plus 45 times this week. So T. Higgins is good for double-digit targets this week. Book it.
Yeah, I like that. Pretty easy to choose between that T. Higgins, Jamar Chase this week, but maybe not so easy to choose between your DK Metcalf and your Tyler Lockett. Which one of those guys am I going to bring along with me on my Geno stack?
That's tough, and that's part of the reason why I don't love to play Geno a lot is because I have to make this decision every time I do, and I don't know that he's good enough to bring them both along. We've seen that it can happen, but you need the perfect storm to happen to bring both of them, so you're forced to choose. Metcalf has had a disappointing fantasy season overall. Geno Smith has been an excellent QB. It really hasn't transitioned well for Metcalf. They are coming off their bye week, and they've already had 3 games in which Metcalf has seen double-digit targets, and 2 of his best games have occurred when that's been the case. He's also scored in 2 of his last 3 games, and the matchup against Las Vegas looks to be kind of neutral on paper. They've played 2 opponents with even averaging even average at pass attacks, and that explains why they've allowed the 13th fewest fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position. So DK Metcalf's coming in at a score of 87 on elite picks, and Tyler Lockett has a score of 91.8. So they like Lockett a little better, and I think if I was playing a cash build, I'd probably lean towards Lockett, but if I'm going tournament, I have to go DK Metcalf.
Like that. And like you just saw in our comments there, old MJ23 was bringing up the cheap Sky Moore at 3K. You pretty much got to do that, right?
Yeah, no, I do like that call. I've been plugging him in if I need a punt option. I do like Sky Moore. It's super cheap this week. We know that Tony's out, and when Tony got ruled out this past week, in the beginning of the game, Sky Moore was one of the main beneficiaries of that. Him and Watson are going to continue to get looks, but I like Sky Moore. Seems like he's getting his confidence back after a shaky start and some special teams errors. He seemed to be a little bit more of the Sky Moore that we were hoping to see this past week. I think that trickles into this week. And I do like him there at the stone min, as they say, there at 3K.
I need him. I need Sky to produce.
I've got him on a shit ton of best ball teams, so I'm hoping that he really comes on here at the end of the year. Some of my best ball teams are hanging in there, but he could definitely help out.
He's my dynasty darling.
Another wide receiver here that I have that is scoring a perfect 100 there on elite picks. That's our guy, scary Terry McLaurin there for the Commanders, playing our Atlanta Falcons. And this price tag, with no respect, 5,800. I love Terry McLaurin this week. Taylor Heineke may not be a great NFL quarterback, but he understands the importance of getting the ball to his best playmaker. Over the last 5 games, McLaurin has averaged almost 9 targets per game, and during that span, he's had a pair of 100-yard games. Atlanta is a decent run defense, but Washington may have to take it to the air. That would be a great idea for Terry McLaurin because the Falcons give up the 3rd most fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers, and they've allowed over 2,000 yards and 13 touchdowns to receivers thus far this season. Taylor Heineke took over for Wentz in Week 7, and since then, McLaurin ranks 3rd in target share with 32% and 17th in expected fantasy points with 14.1. At this price tag, it's wide receiver 20 here at 5,800. I think he's a great value this week, and it's a great matchup against our Falcons. Matt, give me all the scary Terry this week.
I hear you, but is AJ Terrell back?
AJ Terrell, he might be back, but he's going
to have something to say about that.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about AJ Terrell. He hasn't quite been as dominant as he was this past year. He's still a great talent, but he's hit and miss. And I think Terry McLaurin, look what he did against the Eagles. Just shit all over the Eagles like he does every year. And I think he's going to have no problem shitting over our Falcons.
Yeah, and at 5,800, it's not a big risk either.
We already talked Sky Moore, Stoneman there at 3,000. Let's talk Treylon Burks. He's 4,200 this week, and he had a 51-yard touchdown grab past Jair Alexander, the 2-minute warning to seal the game that allowed the rookie wide receiver to lead Tennessee in receptions, receiving yards, and targets, and now he's drawn 14 looks over his past 2 games after he got off this past IR stint. He seems like they have brought him along. He's starting to click a little bit more. He is the really the only wide receiver receiving option that you're interested in as far as Tannehill is concerned. And this matchup against Cincinnati that I'm in on, we think that Joe Burrow's got the juice. We think he's got the fucking gas. And, yes, they do want to, let Derrick Henry tote the rock. But there's a good chance that they may end up having to throw a decent amount this week again. So I like Treylon Burks at 4,200.
That's right. We know Joe Burrow's got that gas. Shout out to Meigs County, Ohio. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. How about them tight ends, Dan?
Let's talk about them tight ends. Travis Kelce is the pay up option coming in at 7,700. and a perfect elite pick score at 100. So he's in a great spot this week. And similar to Geno Smith with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, if you like Mahomes, you have to like Travis Kelce. He leads the team with 94 targets and has exceeded points expectations 70% of the time this season. He's gone for at least 20 DK fantasy points in 7 contests and is coming off a 38.5 DK fantasy points burger this past week. Travis Kelce, once again, the wide receiver options are a little banged up. Kadarius Toney is out of the picture. We like Sky Moore, Stone Minimum, but you can get Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Sky Moore for a nice little stack there, and feel great about it. You don't need much out of Sky Moore there at 3K, and you know that Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce is good as gold on a weekly basis.
Easily the most consistent player in fantasy football right now. If I can get him for 7,700, I know we like to pay down a tight end, but still, I mean, that's just money in the bank right there. He's going to produce for you.
Yeah, no, I'm fond of this year, man. It just feels like each and every week there's just so many cheap ass tight ends that you can choose from, and typically it depends on my quarterback. There's nothing better than throwing a cheap tight end that correlates with whatever quarterback I'm hoping does well. That it's the best way to get some cheap upside on your lineup is take the cheap ass tight end and just match them up with whatever quarterback that you're building around for that particular lineup. It's pretty much my go-to more often than not. The tight ends are just so cheap, and if I'm betting on this quarterback, well, what's a cheap piece that I can allow me to get up to those top wide receiver options that we're after this week.
Right.
Tyreek Hill.
Like Hayden Hurst there at 3,300. He's a guy that we all like. He's done. Our buddy Doug's done some podcasts with Hayden on the mental health stuff. So he just seems like a real good person, and like that price tag at 3,300.
And I love that price tag there. And once again, because I'm in on Joe Burrow in that passing attack this week, well, Hayden Hurst makes perfect sense for me. Evan Ingram, 3,200, I think is viable. Another guy that I'm really interested in is Trey McBride this week. He is coming in at 3,100, obviously stepping into a full-time role with Zach Ertz going on IR. I think he's got a good matchup again this week, so I'm not afraid to go back to him.
I've been streaming a lot of Jawan Johnson out of New Orleans.
Yeah, he's been great, 3,400 this week. He's got a tough matchup there against the Niners, so I've got a little bit of pause on him. Gerald Everett is another guy. He's a little bit more expensive. He's a mid-tier tight end this week, coming in at 4,400. He missed this past week, but Mike Williams is out. Everett's back this week. I like Justin Herbert, who I mentioned. Again, you spot the trend. If I'm into a quarterback, there's a good chance I'm probably in on that tight end. It just so happens Everett is a middle price tight end this week. So I think he's got a great matchup this week. Let's talk some DSTs, though, Brother Matt, before we get out of here. There's really a couple that stand out this week. Starting with the Jets, they're coming in at 3K, which is a little bit more expensive than I'd like, but they're following up, or they're playing Chicago this week. We still don't know if Justin Fields is going to suit up. I've got a shat ton of teams that are depending on Justin Fields this week. And, quite frankly, I don't know that I'm prepared for him to potentially miss. So if he's out,
he's not playing, bro. He's not playing.
If he's out, I'm going to be running circles around Sunday. I need to get some more waivers in. Luckily there's a shit ton of quarterbacks that are likely to be on the waivers out there with all these. Now they're Hail Mary type QBs, but it's something. So I had to take some L's with Kyler Murray in my lineup last week. He had
you did.
He had the late game, and I to be honest, I didn't do my due diligence. If I was a better manager, I would have been prepared for that. But,
I know one league that was happy to see you with Kyler Murray on the bench or like in the starting lineup.
Grand Prix, man, I burnt out big time.
What, eighth place finish or something?
Something. It was terrible. But
Can we get a few more of those, please?
I'm going to need a few more for you guys because I'm not going to lie. In that league, I've been pretty much on the gas all season long.
Not that anybody out there knows what we're talking about, but it is honestly one of the coolest league setups we have going right now. Instead of doing weekly matchups, head-to-head matchups, you acquire points each week based on your fitness. And if you've played much Mario Kart, just go to the Grand Prix scoring on Mario Kart, and that's how we do it with our 12 teams. And it's something else. It's really a neat thing. You build each week. Guys get a little bit of a lead, and then typically they fall back, and some other guys get in there. But Dan's just been kicking our ass this year. He's kept about a 20, 25, 30-point lead on us for most of the year. It has dwindled down to 9 points right now, though.
Well, I'm gonna get my foot back on the gas this week, but it has been a great league, man, and it's nice. You give us a graphic each and every week, compliments via Canva, I might add, that shows us the standings each week, and it's been a great league. One more DST I want to talk about here before we round it out. It's probably my favorite play of the week. That is the Kansas City Chiefs DST. They're coming in at 2,800 this week. Matthew Stafford unlikely to play. We think Perkins is going to come in this week, so a really plus matchup here for these Chiefs, and that's pretty cheap there, 2,800. At Elite Picks, they are coming in at a score of 99.38, so essentially locking the Chiefs in to my cash single entry and small field GPP tournaments.
I like the Dolphins coming off the bye, playing against the Texans with the backup quarterback.
Also very viable. They're going to be great. Luckily, with several DSTs that are viable this week, it's going to not have ownership crammed to just one in particular. You're going to have to pick your spots, and obviously Russian roulette. Which one ends up being the one that goes off for 17 points and sets you apart. I'm just going to probably go with whichever one fits my build better. Obviously, if we like the Chiefs DST, maybe I get Pacheco in on the lineup. We know Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out of the picture. McKinnon is going to continue to have his role and see his receiving work, but we expect the Chiefs to really just slam the Rams, get up early. Pacheco is going to get the run, so pairing him up, and he's right there in that 5K range, maybe 5.5, something like that. Pairing him up with a DST, or as you mentioned, Miami against Houston, Jeff Wilson, Miami. Look for that correlation. Put those together. We want to tap into that ultimate ceiling when we're building these lineups. So obviously we have multiple DSTs that are in a decent spot here. Just look for the correlation, build the lineup, and if it doesn't happen, flip a quarter. Ask your kid. Say Chiefs or whatever. Do whatever you got to do.
Don't give up your secrets, Dan.
There's no exact science behind it. My kids are instrumental sometimes. I'll be asking him, and whichever one he says weird back to me, when I say their name, if my 3-year-old says it back weird to me, that's the one I'm going with, because I'm a fan of weird.
Love it.
All right, brother Matt, that is essentially it as far as the positions go. Plug those guys into your lineup that we talked about. Use those as some of your core pieces and build a winner off of it. Make sure you guys check out fantasypoints.com. With Fantasy Points, you have access to the newest and best website in the industry for your season-long daily fantasy and NFL betting needs. Access to articles, live streams, podcasts, cheat sheets, community chats, online tools, and more, all available at your fingertips. It's the only subscription that you will need all season long. Sign up for the Fantasy Points premium content using promo code SUNS22 to get 10% off there at fantasypoints.com. Go check it out, because if you ride with Fantasy Points, you will score more in 2022 and beyond. Matt, I want to take a minute to thank you for hopping up here tonight. You were prepared to be behind the screen, smoking your ganj and having just a chill night, and all of a sudden you got thrust into a starter role. But that's the next man up mentality here. We deal with it through fantasy football all the time, and we get to live it here tonight, man. So big hat tip to you, man, with everything that you do on a weekly basis and stepping up here tonight. I know Nate hates that he can't be here, but I know he appreciates you holding it down for him.
Yeah, well, love you, Nate. Sorry that your internet's messing up, and sorry that I had to be the guy to step in for you. But I'm glad to do it when I get opportunity.
Please make sure you guys are subscribed to the SOD YouTube page. Click the bell so that you never miss a show with us. Big thank you to the Fantasy Points Media Group. It's been an absolute pleasure riding with them. If you guys are looking for some Sons of Dynasty or SODFS gear, look no further than ViridianGlobal.com. They have all of our gear there made available to you. So get whatever it is that you're looking for. Follow Sons of Dynasty on Twitter at Dynasty Sons, and you can find me on Twitter at Dan Brown NFL, Brother Matt on Twitter at DY_nasty dude. Appreciate you guys tuning in, hanging out with us tonight. Let's kick some ass on this week's main slate. Enjoy the holiday, the extended weekend. Brother Matt, man, big thank you to you, man. And anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Let's make that money.
Let's get it, man. For much love to each and every one of you guys out there this evening.
Later, y'all.